What starts here changes the world. I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day, your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Yes, it's a little bit of a long beginning, but I like this this is something that everybody should listen to. Go out and watch the whole speech. Um, Admiral McRaven, he talks about things that every person should understand, and this is what he did to get through SEAL training. And these are things that we're going to need to go through this dumpster fire that we're going through. We need mental toughness and people that are willing to go through the different challenges. And he says a lot of things that are very important, which go against a lot of what people are doing. And this guy knows how to win battles because he's a military man. So I'll take what he has to say over most of the people on social media these days. Well, anyway, we're here with Payman Askari. He is an immigrant. Ooh, that may be a bad word. Who went to flee tyranny in Iran and ran for politics. He's seeing the same type of tyranny that went on in Iran taking place here now in Canada. And obviously, we have my daughter, the host. So you want to kind of introduce yourself to our audience, because I think this is the first time I'm actually having you on my podcast, isn't it?
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
I've been on once or twice before. Yeah.
On mine?
Yeah, I've been on.
Oh man, old age.
No. Right. I've been on yours a couple of times, and you both have been on mine a couple of times.
Okay. Oh, I guess old age. Well, I'm getting old.
No, it's fine. I forget things regularly. Most of the time, I don't know my own age. I stopped counting after 40. I think I'm 41, but I could be 42.
All right. So welcome. Introduce yourself again to our audience, and you want to give us a little background on what you were talking about with the tyranny that you observed over in Iran that you're starting to see here.
Yeah, sure. My name is Payman Askari. I was born in Iran in 83, and I came to Canada in 89. Obviously, my parents did all the heavy lifting to get us out of tyranny and over here. I've had kind of a unique childhood. I do remember some things about Iran. So I remember the soldiers lining up, the conscripts getting ready to get sent on the front lines. And I remember asking my mom, I'm like, Mom, why are they so sad? And she's like, pay no attention to that. They knew they weren't coming back. I remember the dead bodies in the hospital because it was a horrific war. And then I remember I was in West Germany before the wall came down when, there was still West and East Germany. So I remember that. I remember the racism that the Germans had in the West towards the ones in the East. They were second-class citizens to the Germans. And then I remember coming to Canada. It was heaven. It was paradise. The people. Nowadays, everybody loves to say that Canadians, white people don't have a culture. Canadians very much had a culture. They had square dancing. They would talk about Canadian history, but principally their culture was being happy, being friendly, and smiling a lot. Those three things have gone away in the last few decades, but definitely ramping up since COVID. And once COVID hit, I sensed something was wrong. I never wanted to go to politics. I always just wanted to focus on my business, make money, spend money, going around the world, having fun. And then I said, no, I have to get involved politically. And when getting involved politically wasn't enough, I said I had to run politically. And obviously I didn't win. The chances of anybody outside of the Uniparty winning are very low. Hopefully we can change that. But I guess that's brought me here today to coming on your show to discuss solutions.
Oh yeah, and solutions are important because we're seeing tyranny come up like crazy. Like, I mean, I was born and raised in Canada, and I would have never imagined, like, if you told me like 30, 35 years ago that this would be the norm right now, I would have said no. I knew that there was going to be corruption. Like, I'm a Christian, so the Bible talks about this kind of stuff, and you see it repeated through the Bible that you have good times, corruption, cyclical, and it's close to the end that happened. So I had somewhat of a preparation for it, but I didn't think that it was this bad. And I always knew politicians were liars. That was why I never wanted to go into politics. I was like, if I wanted to be a career criminal, I'll become a politician. And now everybody's seeing what I saw, but this is even worse than I imagined.
So if I can, I don't know how you guys want to go, but if I can just quickly jump in.
Yeah.
in Iran, so corruption works, with money in brown paper envelopes, greasing some palms, you get some government tenders, and that's corruption. And in Canada, I thought that our politicians were completely above that. That could never happen. And then when COVID happened, I started to realize, I assumed at the time that, yes, that can happen here. And then I found out it actually does happen here in the same degree, maybe even greater than it does in Iran. And now I'm at a point where I wouldn't even call it corruption. This isn't brown paper envelopes. This is criminality. This is integration with organized crime or taking over organized crime to commit criminal acts against people. And if you want me to be concrete, I'm talking about Mayor Jeff Colvin trying to throw a duly elected mayor in jail because he's exposing corruption. That's not corruption. That's criminality.
That's 100%, and this is where we have to understand that our government is organized crime. And like for anybody who wants to go back and look at this, like I've done a few podcasts on our channel called Matrix Reloaded that go over this, but we're going to go back and touch on things because me and my daughter, we both understand corruption firsthand. And so when we were taking the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to court, along with the Saskatchewan Health Authority and other entities on July 23rd of 2020, after I filed criminal complaints for criminal negligence based on the engineering controls, which I exposed, and I was actually doing work, and I did my capstone and thesis based on this work for my Bachelor of Technology, and I had professional engineers with PhDs overseeing. And I mean, they were talking about how professional my work was, and my program head was like, "Yeah, I'll support you be a reference for you for a master's, right? Because did good work, know what I'm talking about." And I called them out. Well, when I went in there, let's just kind of bring it back because we've seen this, but we'll play a little clip of this.
For what? This is an illegal warrant.
Oh, sorry.
No, it is not. Let's go.
This is a lie.
This is a lie.
Sidewalk?
This is a lie. You are stopping me from doing the law.
Back up here.
What is the reason for the arrest? What is the reason for the
No,
arrest?
you will not. Do not.
What is the
This is not a
reason?
lawful arrest.
What is the reason
This is not
for
a
the
lawful
arrest?
Do not.
What is the reason
No,
for
I'm
the
not.
arrest?
Yes, you are. This is a
What
lawful
is the
arrest.
reason for the
Pursuant to
arrest?
269.1.
What is the reason for? What is the reason?
I've already applied to
What
your
is the reason? What is the reason?
Do not touch it.
What is
Do
the
not
reason
touch
for
it.
the arrest?
You see this wickedness?
What is the reason?
God
What
is
is
going
the
to judge you
reason for
today.
the arrest?
You will not live. Father in heaven, I ask of you this day to pour out your
What
spirit
is
upon
the
your
reason?
children.
You-
Come
what
on,
is
I
the
ask of you this day
What is
to
the reason?
slay the servants of Baal.
What
Do
is
not
the
allow
reason?
them to touch her.
What is the reason? What is the reason?
I ask of you this day.
What is the reason? You did not state the reason for the arrest.
Tell me the law. Tell me the warrant. Tell me the warrant.
What is the reason?
Give me your arm. Give me your arm now. Give me your arm.
You will not.
What is the reason? Stop!
You'll explain.
Stop!
You're resisting arrest and detention.
No, what is the reason for the arrest?
The public health order.
No, it's not. That's not what it says. That's not what it says.
Good old Canada. We were going into the court against them, right? And so I talked about this at length in podcasts, and I was even showing the documents from the RCMP occurrence reports. They said that the court directed them the day before to prevent me from entering the court. That's what their documents say. And then the judge asked my ex-wife's lawyer, because there's two hearings that day, a divorce hearing on a first appearance and the COVID matter. Judge asked my ex-wife's lawyer for a draft order, and her draft order asked for the entire settling of the divorce, custody, division of property, and everything. Right? Then this happens. They take me and they strap me to a bed and drug me against my will. They take my daughter to her work at the Saskatchewan hospital and they interrogate her. And then all of that stuff happens. My youngest daughter was already abducted, which is a crime under the Canadian Criminal Code. abduction. You cannot do that. And so all of these things happen, and we get arrested. And people tell me, "Oh, I lost custody of the court, fair and square." Really? Is that fair? Did I enter the court, or did I get arrested? Right? And then we showed documentation I think it was a couple of days ago, in one of the previous episodes, where we showed where the woman Tanya Brownie, who came in and was talking about the mental health warrant, she said she didn't instruct me to go for mental health evaluation, but she swore in that she did to get the warrant. That's called perjury. Instantly, it's over. That's torture. You cannot go and lie to get someone strapped to a bed and drugged against your will. That's explicitly torture. RCMP were involved in it. They've been covering it up ever since. So all the people that were saying that were in line with this. And then on top of that, before that happened, my daughter came to North Battleford because she was beaten by her ex-husband. He was convicted for domestic violence, and he's actually under investigation now because he beat her so badly that she lost the baby in Nova Scotia. Oh yes, my daughter here. So she's domestic violence survivor, trying to get herself on that situation. Then this happens to her, right? Then after a while, I'm sitting there, dropped to that bed. He gets taken and gets sexually assaulted, and we'll hear from the man himself talking about it, of what he understood, what he did, just so that people can have an idea of what's going on. We'll go into this because people have suppressed this, because the bills that are coming down would have prevented me from ever talking about this. And other people who are getting completely destroyed. So we'll just pull that clip up and then we'll have a little bit of a discussion.
Can I jump in first?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, Keisha, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a miscarriage, so I'm sorry about that. I was not aware of that. I have so many things to say about this video. It's not just one issue. So presumably there's a family court issue where there's a bias against the man. So you fell into that. Then there's the corruption issue where they don't want you to enter the court. When I say they, somebody within the government, bureaucracy, elected officials, the judge, law enforcement, they're all colluding to carry out this miscarriage of justice, which is to prevent you from entering, which is itself pretty bad. I'm watching the video. You made an appeal through Jesus Christ to these people, and I'm just thinking, like, these are ungodly RCMP officers. There's no way that's going to have any effect. And right after that, she said, you're resisting arrest. And you're like, what am I resisting? She goes, health authorities. I'm like, oh, great. So not only are they ungodly, they are, I won't say the word, but you know who the reference is to, because they're just like, oh, I'm following orders, public health orders. I'm just following orders. Yeah, well, great. Your tax dollars at work. And then besides all of that, they take you and they strap. You're calling it torture, which you're right, legally, but I'm just calling it clown world. Like, they can take people and drug them against their will where it's totally unnecessary. Like you drug people if you got some homeless guy on the street banging his head against the wall and he's got clear mental issues. Or, if I try to throw myself off a building, or the police catch me with a gun to my head and I'm suicidal. Not Dale Richardson was trying to get into court and he was resisting arrest potentially, and so now we have to drug him. Like, this is bizarre. This isn't normal. This isn't how society should function. And the last few years, it's a journey of us all, not all, but majority of us, many of us, waking up and realizing that something is terribly, terribly broken in our government.
Well, yeah, and here, let me just put this up so people can see it when I talk about it. But one of the biggest reasons why they didn't want me to go in there is because of the engineering controls. And people don't want to act like it's nothing, but it isn't, because everything in our world doesn't move without engineering. It really doesn't. And this is my book that I wrote with the stuff that I did during the course of my degree, called COVID-19 Negligent Engineering Practices, Will This Kill People? When I brought this forward, they should have shut down the pandemic response and explained why they put in engineering controls for the HVAC infection controls that were going to spread disease and not mitigate it. and then they were handing it out into people who had no idea and said, go figure it out. That is how people get dead. If I did this, I would be going to jail. I would be up on charges. I would be stripped of the ability to practice and all of these things because I'd be knowingly and deliberately putting people's lives in danger. Now, when you compound the fact of this, that we had COVID was done by gain of function, which the U.S. Select Committee stated this. Well, when the whole moratorium for gain of function happened because they had gain of function pathogens that were spread and caused infection through aerosol spread through the air. That is why they stopped. That was why the moratorium happened. So aerosols are dealt with by engineering controls through your HVAC system. COVID is spread through aerosols. You can also put the vaccines in aerosols, as we know this. You can put a lot of pathogens, and when you chemtrails, when they're spraying, what do you think they're doing? They're aerosolizing it. Same type of thing, except indoors, it doesn't blow away, right? And so this is a big problem for them. When I look at every pandemic response I looked on the planet so far, all of them skipped engineering controls. Every single one. Why? It's 80 to 90% of your infection controls, right? They couldn't have pulled the scam. That's what it is. $1.7 trillion of money for COVID in Canada that it cost us that wouldn't have gotten spent because the government did something they knew was wrong.
Do you want to, Keisha, did you want to get a word in, or I don't know how you guys want to do this?
Yeah, I was just waiting for my dad to play the other clip before I say anything.
Okay. Then I just want to add a couple of other things. I don't know if you guys ever played this video game called Deus Ex. Deus Ex, it's from 1999, 2000, and it's about a dystopian future. This guy is a special agent for UNATCO. You know, there's an attack on the Empire State, on the Statue of Liberty. So they create an anti-terrorist organization. And he goes through and he uncovers this plot. Turns out there's these like trillionaires that secretly rule the world, and they want to do a coup. And they release this virus called I think it's called the Gray Death. And they release the virus, but they also have the cure for the virus. And it all ties back to the Illuminati. It's really cool if you watch it. It's basically COVID. But what I feel has happened is our governments have been hijacked by, you know, the people that run the show, and it's usually the bankers, but the people that are super, super rich. And Dale, you probably like stumbled into this, and you researched it and you figured it out, and you were a bit of a risk, so they wanted to get rid of you and quietly. You know, they're not going to kill you, but they as you said, tortured you. They strapped you to a bed and fed you drugs. But like this is absurd. The people that are criticizing you and they say, "Oh, what is Dale talking about?" You wrote a book. You have a theory. Go read the book. If you disagree with it, that's fine. If you disagree with his theories, but why would you prevent him from going to a court and then drug him against his will? Even if these people believe that your theory is not valid, that doesn't justify drugging you.
The problem with it, engineering is not based on theory.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
whole
not.
point. When
Yeah.
you see a formula in engineering, it's because they've derived it from something that works in the real world.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Engineering is not like so when you see something, for example, the strength of steel, they test it, they bend it, they break it to see what they can do with it, and that's how the formula is derived, right? So this is how the formula that they put together to do this is derived, but then they took away part of it with no justification. That's impossible to work. It's just, and there's no documentation. So I know for 100% certainty the government is wrong.
Yeah.
They
So
can't.
when I use the word theory, I don't mean that it's not valid. It's your thesis. It's your argument. They don't agree with your argument, your premise, and they're not going to read your book because they're lazy. They don't understand how human trafficking and drug trafficking fit into this whole intelligence agency apparatus. They're like, oh, for whatever reason, people maybe they're paid agents of the state and they're attacking your arguments, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't. You should listen to the information before making a judgment.
Right.
Because, you have people that have a vested interest in doing so because they've done work to suppress this, because this type of, this is a national security concern. Like, we had General Michael Flynn, who was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, that publicly stated that this is a national security concern that must be addressed along with other concerns, because he read my report and he gave it to his people. This is a critical weakness that can be exploited and needs to be fixed, and it can be easily fixed, and people can save money while doing it. Well, why would we want to do that? People had their businesses closed down in the lockdowns. I gave them a way that they could keep them open. How is that wrong?
Yeah.
How is that a grift? Explain to me how I'm trying to save people's businesses from closing down by using proper infection controls. How is that a grift?
Yeah. It's not. Like, you're
I
offering
I
a
would have made
service.
money doing work and helping people keep their businesses open, so we wouldn't be in this position. How does that explain to me how that's a grift? I don't know.
So
Yeah.
the video game reference I made, the trillionaires that create the virus, that's not just like somewhat related to what's going on. I'm talking about like the biolabs in Ukraine. I'm talking about like all these terrorist cells that they use as paramilitary, the drug cartels that they use as paramilitary. In your case, I think you stumbled into this COVID sort of project that they have, and you were a thorn in their side, so they kind of crushed you.
Yes, and I'll tell you right now, the engineering bodies are far more corrupt than the medical boards.
Yeah, they are.
Because think about it.
Never trust an engineer.
How do you think they're destroying us? Technology.
Yeah.
Who's creating that technology?
Engineers, yeah.
Engineers. They've got the lion's share of engineers in their pocket by a long shot. It's not even close. And engineers, they're woke as hell.
Yeah, they are.
When they put them through school, they feed them the woke nonsense and indoctrinate them.
Yeah.
Well, everything has been captured. Sorry, go ahead, Keisha.
Oh no, I was just agreeing, like saying that yeah, they cook them really bad. I took a little bit of mechanical engineering in school for a very short period, but yeah, they do cook them badly.
Yeah, let's pull up the clip, because the guy that was filming the video,
When I showed his face.
he ended up taking my daughter when I was strapped to the bed and drugged against my will. He brought her from North Battleford to Black Diamond, Alberta, and he sexually assaulted her. And there's an investigation. People tried to thwart it, and you're going to listen to what he says himself. Let's just pull that clip up here.
I just wanted you to acknowledge that it was taking sexual advantage of me, and it was manipulation. And I feel like you've not said that. Like, you have not acknowledged that. Like, you said you wanted to go into detail because there's things you don't understand. But when I tell you that's what it was, and you've said before that's what it would have been, you don't directly say that, yes, I took sexual advantage of you and manipulated you. Like, I don't understand.
I took sexual advantage and manipulated you. And I'm sorry for that.
Isn't that an admission of guilt? Like,
yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Was this admissible in court, or?
Well, we gave this. People were trying to thwart my daughter from doing this. So she went and reported this while she was in the States. This guy's a dual citizen. She went to Florida, Volusia County. They didn't notarize the statement. They did not send the RCMP the body cam footage, and they did not put the file number on the one that they did notify, and they never sent any of the evidence across to Canada through Interpol. Because if they did, it would have lit up like a Christmas tree and everybody would have been able to see it, and they had to send it properly, and they would have had to extradite Robert Cannon, the guy who filmed the video, the white guy in the video, the guy who did this, they would have had to extradite him back to Canada and prosecute him.
Well, I don't understand. My friend, he got into an argument with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend called the cops and said he beat me up. Immediately, they came and arrested him. He spent the night in jail, and the only reason that he's not in jail is because the Crown realized the girl was lying and they dropped the charges. Ooh, did they not put handcuffs on this guy?
Well, because they didn't send the information from Volusia County if they didn't send the body cam footage, they didn't send the interview notes. The statement that Keisha wrote, they did not notarize it. So it wasn't admissible. So they botched everything in Volusia County, did not send it to Canada. So they couldn't do anything because in Canada, they don't have a choice. When there's a rape case, they have to take the information and send it to the Crown. And that would have been it. But Volusia County, why didn't they do that? That's my question. Like, you fell over that bad and didn't do anything properly? That doesn't make sense.
So the possibility of pursuing justice that way is completely nullified now, or
No.
what's up?
There's no statute of limitations in Canada for sexual assault. And she went in and we were both interviewed by the police, and there's an investigation. And other investigations are going, so they're slowly but surely coming together. And you're going to get, now they have to start figuring out who has jurisdiction, because we spoke to law enforcement in the United States, and it was like, yes, this is rape.
Yeah.
And they're going to, and trafficking, so now they're going to have to start figuring out who has jurisdiction. And all these people that are running around saying all this stuff, they're going to eventually find out they're going to get hauled in.
Yeah, because I also have like the videos of these people sexually abusing me and beating me and all sorts of other things, like being intoxicated and stuff like. And the police, they said, like my dad said, it is rape. And I was even attacked by a pit bull. And I had people who came to where I was and dug their hands into my wounds and had sex with me on camera.
Raped her.
Yeah.
It's not sex, it's rape.
Yeah. And put it on camera, tried to get me to sell it online for profit, and did it themselves. They were distributing it for money. So, like, yeah, the police in the States, they said that, yeah, it's rape, it's assault, and it's trafficking, so they're investigating it. And like
I don't understand.
Trying to find who to give the jurisdiction to.
Like my friend, he had a party during COVID, and within like 72 hours, they came and they arrested him just for having a party. So when the government wants to move, they can move swiftly.
Exactly.
They ended up seizing his apartment through civil forfeiture. But like in this case, they're dragging their feet intentionally. What is this, human trafficking related?
This is human trafficking. What happened with my daughter is one of the worst. It is the worst case of human trafficking because it was done in plain sight. There were government institutions involved. We talked to J.J. Carroll. They don't tunnel across the U.S. border anymore. They don't. The cartels, they hand them off to the CBP because they've got people paid off in CBP. They hand them over to ICE, and then ICE places the children in a situation where they disappear. The same thing happened to my daughter. Robert dropped my daughter off at the northern border. They put her in under the Safe Third Country Agreement like she was an undocumented immigrant. Because if you look at the Safe Third Country Agreement, anybody go pull it up, it tells you that it doesn't apply to Canadians or Americans, and even less to Indigenous people. So they put her in there, put her in a credible fear hearing and all that stuff, hid the fact that she had any Indigenous identity and whatever. They said that she claimed this and that, and then put her on a surveillance tracking program and forced her to live with single American men. And let's actually, I'll pull up the clip of one of the single American men that people are calling good Americans that Keisha is trying to, me and my daughter are trying to scam. But this is what one of them did. And he did this on camera. So let's look at that.
He's trying to pick the lock.
Give me my phone.
Oh, he's choking me.
Give me my phone.
He's choking me. He's choking me.
How? My hands are free.
How am I supposed to?
Help! 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 Get off of me! Get off of me! Get off of me!
You can hear those thumps where he's hitting her, right? These are the good Americans that they're saying that my
What's the
dog's
jurisdiction? What city? What's the time frame as well?
This is North. This is one of the guys that ICE had forced her to live with, right? And he drugged her, beat her, pulled a gun on her, and then when the woman that she talked to at church called the police, and then they came and arrested her. And I told my daughter, I said, "Give a statement." Yes, and they pushed this into the family court. They played this whole video, and there was more to this that was submitted to law enforcement, and they said that she was to blame and let him go when he's beating her. Right? Like, this is the nonsense they do in family courts. The courts are corrupt because they can get away with it. In family courts, when they do this, instead of putting in a criminal court because they had no business, they weren't married, they didn't have kids, right? And if they did, then they would have to answer to why ICE put her in that situation, because ICE's policy cannot allow a woman of her age to live with a single American man. They can't. They're responsible for this.
I was watching a podcast. I'm just trying to put this into a broader perspective. If instead of the cartels just looking at them as like a private institution or corporation, if you look at them as the paramilitary force of, whoever runs the intel agencies, they are a profitable paramilitary organization. So they sell to the cartels, we'll help you a bit, but you have to make your own money. What I'm trying to say is this has become a part of the government now. You're saying that they bought off the customs agents. It's not the cartels acting on their own. I think this is the fundamental difference between the Trump administration and Biden. Trump is actually interested in stopping this.
The cartels are acting with multiple. They're acting on behalf of multiple people. If you go back to the Iran or what was it? The one in Nicaragua with Colonel Oliver North. I can't remember, but basically with Noriega and all that stuff, they were running drugs. The Bushes were the biggest drug dealers. They were running drugs. Bush was like, his dad was the director of the CIA. CIA is one of the biggest drug runners, and their intelligence agency are notorious. All of them, they're all running drugs, and a lot of these defense agencies, they're running drugs to profit their black ops.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got the intelligence agencies who've got their hooks in the cartels. You got the Chinese who's got their hooks in their cartels because all the precursors are coming from China, which are then put in through the cartels. And then you have the intelligence agencies and the illicit areas in the military that are using these things to fund their operations. And drug trafficking and human trafficking go hand in hand. And this is one of the reasons why General Michael Flynn got on the wrong side of the Obama administration, because he wanted to deal with the stovepiping and he wanted to examine defense contractors. Because when they stovepipe, they basically take only certain people get the information rather than all the interested parties getting the information, so they can have proper oversight and make sure that things aren't getting done. What they do is they only make sure that it goes to one place where they can allow all of these other things that other agencies would be like, hell no, we can't allow that, to get by. And then they launder money and all that kind of stuff. If he got to do what he did, we wouldn't have had this conversation about COVID. Because Metabiota, EcoHealth Alliance...
I get that. And that's why they made such an example of him. And I guess to tie it back to Keisha's story, what I'm trying to get at is this: it's not like the CIA. They have their own little agenda and they want to do it off the books, so they're partnering with the drug cartels. Whoever's made the decision that we have to go into Ukraine and we have to establish a foothold, They go to the CIA and they say, all right, these are your orders. Ukraine is where we want to go. And they say the funding mechanism is the funding mechanism which we've set up through the cartels. Like this is a top-down model. It's not, and what Keisha stepped in, what you stepped in, sort of. It's not the fusion of government and organized crime. It's just government, and organized crime is a wing of the government.
Yes, it is very
Yeah.
much controlled. Like, I mean, where Chris Erickson puts the clip up on like a weekly basis, where it's the guy from CSIS says that every government from Trudeau back to Mulroney and every level is being compromised by the CCP.
Yeah.
Like, CSIS, the director of CSIS, came out and said this in a parliamentary hearing.
Yeah.
This is not conspiracy. This is our own government telling us that our government is compromised by the CCP, and they can't investigate because who does CSIS have to go to get the power to investigate? The same parliament that's compromised by the CCP,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I guess my question, I'm not trying to get away from your story, Keisha, but this question just popped into my head. Do you believe that the parliament, when he says parliament has been compromised by CCP, does that mean that CCP is what's running all of these problems, or is he just like he's representing the other side that's compromised Canada for the past 70 years? I don't know, City of London or Brussels, DC.
They're saying that there's other foreign influence. They acknowledge that, but right now the CCP, like these, there's foreign influence coming from India and Southeast Asia and other places as well. But the CCP right now is the most dominant. They're the ones with the most money.
What I mean, we have serious foreign influence from England right now in the form of our prime minister, who's not acting in the interest of Canada.
Yes, but at the end of the day, whether it's a CCP, whether it's coming from Southeast Asia, whether it's coming from England, they're all part of the same group of people that are operating through different entities, right?
Yes.
If you look at the model of the way that BlackRock, Vanguard, and everything own everything, each of them own part of every company, and they all own part of each other. So it's really one big company, but it looks like it's spread into different parts. And this is the way that these people operate, right? So whether it's coming from, because China has a deep state, every country has a deep state, every agency that you can think of, there's factions in between where there's the organized crime, because they don't have complete control, but they have enough. That's driving all of these things, and they make sure they get their people into the positions of power, and they have like an army of INTJ masterminds that are orchestrating this. They do. These guys strategize these things, and they think, when we think in terms of reacting today, next week, these guys are thinking hundreds of years down the road.
Yeah.
Right? And they were way ahead of us. And what we're doing now, we're walking right into into their trap. And I can't believe that people are so unaware of it. And like what's happening to us, this is what will happen to everyone. Because with people, most people don't resist the way that me and my daughter do. This is one of the reasons why I fight this, because I know what this is like. Because I had to deal with this a lot earlier. An identical ideology to what I dealt with 20-something years ago is the same mindset of what I'm dealing with today. 100%. Same type of cartel. And trafficking is their business. It's how they maintain control. And it's also how you break the back of the population.
Yep.
This is and how this whole thing with the indigenous, it's funny when I hear people say that they were conquered, and I'm like, the colonization tactics are being used on you.
Yeah.
The Canadians are being subjected to colonization tactics right now as we speak.
Yeah.
And
what do you mean specifically?
In colonists, if you study the history in Africa, which most people have no idea, they just want to be like, oh, they're all low IQ people. If you look at Africa, what the colonists did, they would have multiple tribes in an area. They would go and they would favor one tribe. and they would make all the other tribes hate them. And then they would use them to subjugate the other to keep them always in a state of chaos, which makes them easier to control. They can continue to do business, prices will maintain low, and then they have one group subjugate the other. This is their tactics the whole time. So now when they started to change, this is why I told people the indigenous treaties, you need to pay attention because they changed them. And then they gradually changed them over time from being nation to nation treaties to race based treaties, which is unconstitutional. Canada didn't have the power to do that, but nobody cared. So now they make them like a special status, and they're like, oh, well, they have special rights. Well, no kidding, because they're actually governed by treaties, not the same way that you and I are, and treaties confer certain rights. But now they're using that to take away our rights because they changed the way the treaties were. They actually honored them the way that they were. They couldn't be used to take away our rights because they don't apply to us. And so forth. And Canada doesn't have the power to deal with the treaties the way that they're doing. That's why people need to go back and read the 1867 portion of the Constitution. Because even the Charter and the Aboriginal rights portion of that is still subject to 1867 because that came first. And so people aren't doing this. In the Supreme Court, I watched the decisions of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court right now needs to be abolished, and they need to rewrite those laws, and they need to put in stiff penalties for judges who outright flout the Constitution, because we don't have a Constitution because of the Supreme Court. It's because of them, because they write the laws by decree.
You know, this occurred to me earlier on in this episode. The corruption is at every level. So politically, it's federal, provincial, municipal. It's across the judiciary as well. And you mentioned, Keisha, how they're very woke in the engineering fields, all fields. So anything through the education system, which is basically everything. So everything outside of the rural areas where people are living on their own, like truck drivers, for example, it's been completely captured. And I don't know how you fix it, because you're right. We need to remove these judges and nullify the laws they pass. But to do that, you got to take back the political system, which is completely hijacked as well.
But we have a lot of mechanisms to do so. And this is why people don't want people to look into what I've done, because like I said, I understood how this works. And people, I'm not telling anybody this is going to be like, oh, you push a button and say a couple of things and everything goes back. No, I'm going to tell you this is going to be hard, but it's not impossible, because the alternative and what people were saying, oh, civil war. I said, you really think you're going to outgun all of these people that have most of the world's engineers and all the AI and all of this stuff and all these drones? You're not going to stand a chance. That is the dumbest way. And with an enemy like this, to react is how you lose. We have to be proactive, and I've been telling people this already. Like, we have to leverage everything that we have. And one of the things that happened with me here, the Convention Against Torture, we have a lot of leverage, and we need to have people to see what's going on. Because one thing that these people fear more than anything else is exposure. And they're not at the point where they can just take everything we have and gun us down in the streets. Because if they could, they would have done this. Because I deal with some of these people and I look at the looks in their faces. And I know from the looks in their faces, if they could kill me, they would. Like, you can see the rage and the malice and the hatred in their eyes. And so for whatever reason, they're not far enough where they need to go. Thank God for that. But all the people who are forced vaccinated, all of the abuse that you're getting, the lawfare that you're going and you're upholding the law, and then you're punished for that, that's cruel and unusual punishment at the very least. When you start imprisoning people unjustly and making things up to imprison them, you're starting to torture your people. Canada has long been known for torturing its citizens abroad. It's also been long known for not having any mechanisms to deal with torture domestically. What happened to me and Keisha is clear demonstration of that. And it also demonstrates that there's cross-border collusion into the United States. Because when somebody comes to you and they claim that they have been tortured, you cannot, the torture convention says you cannot detain them. Well, what did they do to Keisha? And they detained her. I'm going to actually play a video, not a video, but an audio of what Keisha was saying when she came out of there so that people can understand the level of what they're doing. Because when you do something, and listen to what the RCMP did to her when she was taken for being contact traced on a public health order. I'm going to pull this up because people need to hear this, because this is what they're doing, not just to us, they're doing it to others, like Dr. Mel Bruchet in BC. They drugged the guy to all high hell for blowing the whistle.
Oh, they ruined his life. Like they might as well lobotomize him.
Well, and look at what they did to the police in Edmonton, right, for trying to go out and investigate things. They had 300 of them. They isolated them. They didn't take the jab, and they were trying to investigate. They pretty much tortured these guys. They said, if you do this, we'll throw you in mental institutions, right? That was what they were doing in Edmonton. And then you had Helen Bruce in Ottawa. They are running her down. This is cruel and unusual punishment at the very least. And what they did in Edmonton was outright torture, because they were threatening to put them into mental institutions.
Before you play the audio clip, can I got some follow-up questions for you.
Yes.
So, like, you're going to try this in a court of justice, right? Not the court of public opinion?
It's got to be both.
Right, but the reason I ask is the concept of torture, to the average person, they think it requires electrodes or, like whipping or bamboo under the fingernails, right? But what you're saying is what they're doing to Helen Bruce, it constitutes under this act torture. Well,
no, it's what they're doing is the minimum, it's the threshold. There's two things that they prohibit: cruel and unusual punishment and torture. The guys in Edmonton who were intimidated and threatened with going to mental institutions and being medically strapped to a bed and drugged against your will, that's the outcome of being in those places. That's torture, because you're intimidating and coercing them to get that result with that threat, knowing that would happen. But they didn't threaten, as far as I know, Helen with this, but they punished her for doing her job, and that would be cruel and unusual punishment. See, Article 16 of the Convention Against Torture prohibits anything that is cruel and unusual punishment that doesn't meet the threshold of torture.
Okay.
Right?
So I guess another follow-up question. What is this convention? Is it passed through the federal legislature, or is it a treaty internationally?
It's an international treaty. If you look on the Canada website, it calls it an international instrument that's binding in Canada. And it gives you the right to complain under Article 13 to anybody. Nobody can sit down and say no. And they tell you that you have to take all administrative, legislative, and judicial actions to prevent all actions of torture. And if you don't, you're then what they could call complicit to torture, and you have the international avenues to deal with this, and going directly to the Special Rapporteur of Torture and the Committee Against Torture and so forth. And with what happened with me and my daughter, 5.5 years to push through in 2 countries, getting tortured and all these horrendous abuses, to finally get interviewed and to get torture complaints and get interviewed for it, and still getting resistance, demonstrates that Canada is in violation of Article 22 of the Convention Against Torture, meaning that they have no effective mechanisms to protect people from torture or to get remedy from torture or cruel and unusual punishment, which is why we're seeing all of these things happen. So now, because of this, every person in Canada can use this as a test case to demonstrate we need to go directly internationally, because Canada cannot deal with it itself, because every time they do, they retaliate against you. And you're watching this happen to everybody.
Yep.
I interviewed this gentleman, Trevor Hallsworth. He goes by Rule of Law Canada on X, and he has almost a very similar story. He wasn't tortured, but he what do you call it? He went through every single avenue legally to get justice. He found a judge that facilitated a lawyer perjuring himself, and at the very end, he finally made an appeal to the United Nations. He says, "Look, I'm in a country that refuses to give me justice. The legislature won't do it. The judiciary won't do it, and I've exhausted all my avenues." And it seems like that's what you guys are saying is, we can't get justice within the country. We have to go through this convention.
And not only the way that is yes, this convention and through the United States, because the United States is the enforcement arm. Because of the way that it was the cross-border nature, the principles of comity apply. And we can leverage the United States, the people, not the government in Washington, because the power rests with the people, to leverage the people as the enforcement, because the same bending over the United States applies to them. So we can work together to help liberate the people. And that's really what we need to do, because we have the right to petition for redress. And tied to Article 13 of the Convention Against Torture, no one can shut us out. And even though they want to, we need to bring the public pressure. And the more that they publicly deny us, that shows that the entire world what Canada is doing. It is complete despotic communist, and it is going to turn on its people and commit a genocide if they don't stop it. And that's what we need the world to see in action, that Canada is doing this.
So just to be clear, you would go through the Canadian courts first, or would you go directly through U.S. courts?
You go, first of all, you go to international, and then you go to the legislative bodies, because there's no point in going to the courts. You see, the way the government is structured, the will of the people comes through the legislative. The judicial branch is the weakest branch. They actually don't have any power, but they've been given power because the people who want to destroy us did this. The executive holds the sword, but the direction comes from the legislative, which is what we have access to. And this is who we then begin to pressure, because if they don't, we then put them accountable because they're violating the Convention Against Torture. We've demonstrated that we've used all of these different avenues, and every person that keeps coming will add to that as a repeating pattern that is not just a one-off. This is how you catch criminals and organized crime, when you see the repeating pattern over and over again. Now, my daughter and I provided a template for that.
Okay, I understand now. You want to bring this to the attention. Presumably, the convention gives you the authority to take it to your federal legislature, and you want to bring this case before them, this argument, this petition, I think you called it, and you believe that if we get enough Canadians to file a similar petition, let's just say every Canadian that was forced to vaccinate against their will.
We don't need to file a bunch of petitions. What we need to do is to file a petition, not just in Ottawa. We need to go to the provinces, because the provinces are the one who hold the teeth for criminal prosecution. Because if you look at the 1867 Act of the Constitution, it demonstrates that the provinces have exclusive control of the administration of justice. When it comes down to criminal prosecutions, it's done in the provinces. And one province, all you need is one province in this country, and they can try everybody across the entire country and yank them back for all of this stuff, because that's the way our Constitution
I guess
works.
the challenge that you're going to encounter is it's those very same provinces that either initiated it or went along with it with the federal government, because they played that hot potato thing where the federal government's like, we didn't do it, we just recommended.
It doesn't matter, because we are bringing to them evidence of torture and cruel and unusual punishment. The way that convention works is when you brought before you, you're liable for it. You have to do something because there's a no defense clause. And there's no justification for it. I was doing my orders doesn't fly under the Convention Against Torture. No public emergency like health crisis can justify it. That's written into 269.1 of the Criminal Code and in the Convention Against Torture. So they have no justification. The moment that they do that, they're liable. So we have to push all angles at once. We're not doing this as a one step after the other. You're going to hit the provinces, hit the federal government, hit every person, hit the United States, hit the international at the same time, and then push it through the media and say, now all you guys got to do something. Because if not, then everybody's going to see, the entire world is going to see the whole mechanism is nonsense. And they're going to be like, what the hell is going on?
And has this ever been done before in Canadian history, or is this like this convention something that they use to bludgeon, the brown and Asian countries? Like if torture happens in Iran,
Canada was caught. They said they tortured Omar Khadr in Guantanamo Bay. They stood by while the Americans sleep deprived him, right? And Canada has had a history of doing this in the Middle East and all over the world. You go back and go through like the Convention Against Torture, the Committee Against Torture, they talk about this. And Canada is known internationally for having weak controls, and the world knows it. And now we need to show them what Canada is doing. Because we can't sit here with Stockholm syndrome anymore. We cannot sit here and play the abused like battered wife syndrome. We stay silent while we're getting abused. And then there are people that are running around trying to silence it so that the abuser can continue to abuse us. It's really what's happening. And we all have to do it. And what? Go ahead.
What is the next step? I'm a little bit unclear as to whether we're all supposed to sit on our thumbs while Dale Richardson and Keisha do all the work,
No. Well, first of all, we have petitions in Alberta and Saskatchewan already that have this information in it, right? And people can start pressuring their government. We have an action plan for people to do that. We can help people to do it in every province. And we've got 4 of them in the States already that people can start getting up. And even with Tina Peters, who's rotting in jail, in prison unjustly, and she's like 70 years old, who tried to do what was right and got thrown under the bus. And people want to leave people like that. There's a woman in Texas who the judge were trying to throw in her mental institution, protected her ex-husband, who's a lawyer and involved in money laundering. He beat her black and blue, and then he came back again and raped her, and she was bruised during the rape. And they protected him, and they took her kid and gave it to him, and then were trying to put her in the mental institution, and they put her in jail for contempt after. Because when they were trying to put her in the mental institution, I started to speak in the court, and I said the only reason why she had mental health issues is because you're seeing an escalating pattern of violence, and the court's failing to protect her. And then everybody stopped.
Yeah. The rot within our institutions, I don't want to revisit them because it's just absurd. You have the lunatics are running the asylum, like they have most, if not all, the levers of power.
Yes.
So you filed this petition already?
Yes, I gave them. They have custody of it, so now they're liable. But the people have to be the ones to push it forward. I can't do this by myself. The will of the people. This is
that's what I was going to ask. Like if the people don't bring enough pressure, theoretically, in reality, the RCMP could just like mothball it or let it collect dust, and
yes, but
there's no justice, right?
Yes, but it legally changes what you can do, because now I have a complaint of torture. My daughter does as well. They have to protect you from retaliation and from torture. It makes it a lot harder for them to now do something to you when you have these active complaints, because they have to register them in the system whenever people make these types of complaints. And if anybody was tortured, I would suggest that they would go there. And if the police try to, like, I help people go and make complaints, because when the police try to dick around, they even tried to do it with my daughter. I get on the phone, I said, no, that's not the way it works. You need to do it this way. And I explain to them what goes on, and they go and they capitulate, and they get angry because they will bend people over for doing that. I'm not going to take that. you have a job to do. Anybody can make any complaint that they want, and the police have to take it. And then they take their investigation, and then they then decide what needs to be done with it. And in some cases, they don't have a choice. They have to collect the information and give it to the Crown. And torture and cruel and unusual punishment, these are one of the things that they don't have any control over, because the torture convention is what governs it. And if they don't do it, then that is just straight violation. And there's also, I forgot to mention, there is a complaint that's at the International Criminal Court that I filed. And it's still active. And they said, if you have more information, then we can revisit it. And I can give everybody what they need to do to start flooding their complaints of cruel and unusual punishment and torture there, because that will then trigger instantly crimes against humanity. Yes, because that's a widespread, systematic attack. You read about crimes against humanity, that is exactly what Canada is enacting. And these bills that are coming down are going to silence people and allow them to continue, because they're so vague that they can use anything on that unarmed harms and hate. Well, if you speak about crimes against humanity, that's going to be hate speech. What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your internet? They're going to cut off your telecommunications. And the next thing, they come in and they grab you. Really? And then they say,
the irony of if they cut off your internet, they can't propagandize you anymore.
No, but they can come in and take you and say, oh, by the way, they wanted MAID.
Yeah. And they are trying to get it so that MAID doesn't need to be written consent. It's just verbal.
Yeah.
You know, so if you want to talk about MAID, two things I wanted to bring up. One, when I was on the campaign trail, I talked in a senior citizens home, and this one guy, he started getting aggressive with me, and he goes, who here, like, who of you people will support Turbo MAID? It wasn't Turbo MAID, it was like Advanced MAID or something. And I'm asking the guy, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, you already have the right to kill yourself. But I guess they want the ability so that, you know, if he can't talk, like he's already signed it off, like in the event that I stub my toe, you have my permission to kill me, sort of thing. So they're going in that direction. The other thing I wanted to mention, Robert Malone, he was at a conference in Calgary, the We Unify conference, and he said that it doesn't take too much of a stretch to assume that they're going to expand MAID to apply to people on humanitarian grounds, so they could say, you know, we're having a health issue. You know, we don't have enough funding for healthcare. You're old. Would you like to volunteer to kill yourself so that other people, like he said, it's not too much of a stretch that they're going to give that.
Well, they already said that they can save money on their healthcare system by using MAID. And they want to extend this to people with mental health issues and to people as young as 13.
Yeah.
And without parental consent.
And once you sign, you can't take it back.
Or if they say it, they just come in and they kill you, and they like, well, they said they wanted MAID. Who's going to tell you any different? Like, this is
it's accelerating really quickly, because you bring up a good point. Well, who's to say any different? You know, he wanted MAID. Well, that's kind of how this Mental Health Act thing came in. It came out of nowhere. Like, they're drugging people against their will. The next step would be to kill people against their will.
Yes.
And this is happening. This is happening. And like, if you listen to Kelsey Sharon, she talks about how the actual thing, and she talked about this in an interview with Jordan Peterson. It's like being waterboarded when they give you MAID. So you're being tortured and it's painful, but you can't move because they sedate you, and then your lungs fill up with fluid. So it's like being waterboarded while you're dying. Right? So you live a painful life, and then they promise you an easy way out of death. And it's one of the most painful, excruciating deaths you'll ever die, because you're being tortured till you die.
It's funny. They call it dying with dignity. It's kind of like, what's that abortion one in the U.S.? That it sounds cute and fuzzy.
Like Planned Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood, yeah. There's no parenthood involved at all. You're killing the babies.
Yes, and this is where we're at, and we need to make changes, because we have to do something. and they're trying to cut off our avenues, and we don't have very much time left. And in
No.
these things, with the bills that
Can
they're
I
bringing, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go back because we got sidetracked a bit with MAID. What you're saying is protesting, sure, it might have some value, but it's not really producing results. Complaining and arguing on social media is not going to make any long-standing impacts. So what you're proposing, you're saying this is one avenue that we can actually make change, and you're urging people to do what you're doing.
Okay. The reason why I'm saying this is the same type of people I was dealing with my daughter. She got taken without provocation. She was put in a situation where she was being molested by Child and Family Services, the family that was there. They put her in there, and they were known for in Winnipeg for putting children in hotels where they were being sex trafficked, and it was on the front page of the news, and they continue to do it. Like they don't, no care, right? None whatsoever. As long as they're getting their money, and this is state-sanctioned child trafficking. So I lost all parental rights, and this is where you don't get it back. And I remember they were going to go put my daughter to live with her maternal grandmother, which gave away all her kids. And I said, over my dead body, walked out. Everybody was like, what? My lawyer was telling me I was going to lose and everything else like that. So I went and did my own work, downloaded the whole Child and Family Services Act of Manitoba. Like, I kept meticulous notes on everything, and I broke down wherever they broke the law, and I sent it to a bunch of people all in one day. Everybody got to see who else got it, and I had copies of the letter. It was like about 13 pages or something like that. And after that, I was like asking for investigations, showed charter infractions where they broke the law and everything else like that. And they were like, nope, sorry, this is too much. Give the kid back. So they gave me my daughter back. They got custody back from Child and Family Services. And after that, their lawyer said they'll never come in your face again because you beat them. This is the same mindset. But this is now, that was stage 1 cancer in one province. This is stage 4 cancer. You need a lot more people to do the same thing. They need to feel a lot of pressure and accountability coming in a very short time, and the exposure is what they fear. Because a lot of those people are only doing what they're doing because they're hiding things. So when
I get what you're saying. And you and I have been talking about this, but I'm just, for the audience that's listening right now, your message is what you said earlier. We have to be proactive. We can't be reactive. We can't wait for them to drop a bill and then complain about it. It's not really working through the political system. You're saying, hey, fellow citizens, here is one way we can do it. You have to be smart. You have to educate yourself on the law. And, I, Dale Richardson, will trailblaze for you, kind of.
Well, I mean, me and my daughter took a lot of the hits, putting all this information and collecting it over the last 5.5 years for the people to use. People don't have to go out and learn everything. Sure, they can. Go ahead and start learning, but there's enough for people to just pick up and start doing and saying, this is what happened to me. And based on what this guy said, you need to do something about it. And I've compiled all of this stuff myself, and I tied it to an engineering report so that people don't have to take the liability for all of that stuff, for all the nasty accusations. It's on me, because I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, you want to haul me in court? Please do so. I've been waiting for a long time because everybody wants to shut me out. I have videos of me telling judges, get off the bench. I'm not going to pay for your treason. Get lost. Are they coming after me? No. Why? Because what was the information in front of them? Why I was saying what I was saying? Because they were literally breaking the law, committing crime, being complicit to treason, torture, and rape and trafficking. Right? And then they're acting this way. That's not vexatious litigation. I was actually, and I didn't bring it in an accusatory manner. I just laid out the steps of what was done and applied it, the law, and said this is what it is, and that you make a decision. But this is what it's consistent with. And that's how you do things. That's not vexatious. That's doing it what's right. What was vexatious was what the judges did. And the judges didn't even write most of it. Other people did.
They confessed to that online.
Sorry?
people who wrote the orders for the judges confessed it online, and the Court of King's Bench ended up having to get rid of the guy, and even delete accounts because he came online confessing that he was writing orders for these judges, and he had personal vendettas against engineers, Christians, self-litigants, pro se litigants or whatever, and native people who were raped, who thought was naive and stupid. So he was writing orders against people before even hearings came, and he would just give them to the judges, and the judges would just sign them and stamp them or whatever.
The Court of King's Bench
Sounds highly illegal.
Yes, and
Yes.
they had this on the Court of King's Bench
Yeah.
on their X account, and they deleted their X account.
Yeah. And they ended up having to remove a bunch of orders for over like 1,000 people.
Yeah, so
Because
I'm going to be going to
they
talk
got
to the
caught.
Court of King's Bench as well about that, because I reported this to the police as well, because this is part of the complicity to torture, because what they did was a crime, and then him using
Donald
the vexatious litigation and barred my daughter Keisha, who was in the United States being drugged, beaten, trafficked, and raped from the courts that she never stepped foot into.
Yep.
They did this in the federal court as well while she was in the United States, and they barred a bunch of other people. They don't tell you this.
And the guy who confessed to sexually assaulting me and manipulating me, they allowed him to speak as if he was my spouse in like to the court and all these other things. And the police said that they knew that he was my father's son-in-law on an occurrence report. And my dad was like, my son-in-law is black. What are you talking about? Like, because at the time I was married. So, yeah.
And her son-in-law was the one that beat her and ended up getting convicted for domestic
You mean-
abuse.
Your son-in-law.
What?
You said her son-in-law.
What?
You
Your
said
son-in-law.
Her son-in-law. Your
Oh,
son-in-law?
yeah, my son-in-law,
Yeah.
sorry. Her, yeah, ex-husband. Oh, let's get to the clip I was going to play. I forgot about that. Let's get to that.
They started.
Oh, yeah, had that cat preach in there.
The thing they put around my wrist, I couldn't feel my hand for days. I was praying every day for Jesus to heal it. And this started to feel better. I started to feel my hand again, but here I don't feel anything much. And then they brought a big black man inside, the police officer, and said,
The black man is a police officer.
yeah, and
They sure he give you his badge number.
no one gave me their badge number or their name.
They are
They're
supposed to
supposed
by
to.
law.
And I asked for a legal aid because I said, you're not supposed to talk with me. And they gave me a detention order from the public health saying that they can detain me. But Dad, on the paper, they got the detention order before I even left the house. They gave me a detention order before I even left. And when I asked them about it, they said that they were told that I would be leaving the house. And I said, who told you I would be leaving the house? And they said that they were made aware by someone because they were just made aware. And I said, so you've been stalking me pretty much, because I never said to anyone that I'm going anywhere. And they said they were just made aware. But on the paper that they gave you with the blood on it, it says Keisha Richardson, and on this paper it says Keisha Derry. So they weren't even allowed to do this. When I asked them, they were not listening. They said because I wasn't cooperating and I broke the law, I don't get to speak to a legal aid. And they didn't let me speak
No,
to
that's
a legal
not
aid.
right. That
They
is
never-
not right.
No.
That is not
No,
right.
They never let me speak
Keisha,
to a legal
from
aid.
the time you say lawyer,
I said,
from the time you say I want a lawyer, oh my God,
said, but
from the time
after-
you say that they have to get you a legal
They said,
representative,
you
you don't need to speak.
cooperate, so-
No,
And
no.
then they took me to a room by myself because they said I was making the people feel unsafe.
Unsafe?
And
What you were doing? Were you crazy?
no, I was just talking like regular, and then they brought me in the other room and made this mental health lady talk to me, and I said I don't feel safe with these people. And she said, you don't answer my questions. It's yes or no. And she tried to force
No.
me to answer.
Okay, you
And
see,
they
that's
never let me
coercing
speak.
you.
Yes, they never
That
let
is
me
coercing
speak to
you.
legal aid until after. And it was the man they chose. And he said two
No.
words to me on the phone and he hung up on me.
What?
And then I tried to call him
No,
back.
he's
and
not a lawyer then.
No.
He's not a lawyer. They're just trying to get you.
Right.
They
Yes.
were just trying to
I hope you
coerce
didn't say
you.
I never,
nothing.
I,
Did you?
No. And the man asked me what was the case about, because they know already what is the case because it was on the paper we served them. So I said it's a civil matter between DSR Karis Consulting and the other people. I made the mistake. I said criminal charges. Then I said no, sorry, I don't want to make a mistake. It's actually civil matter. And he said, and they said to me, you don't need to speak to them. You don't have to speak to them. Take care. And he hung up on me. And the lady, she never tell me my rights. The legal
Did
aid.
they Mirandize you?
No, and I told the
They
lady,
didn't Mirandize
you.
you?
Didn't Mirandize me. And she said, there's no Mirandize rights in Canada.
I'm
and
sorry,
I said,
what?
you're supposed to read my rights
You have
to
the
me.
right
I
to
said,
an attorney.
You're supposed to read my rights to me. And she didn't read the rights to me until I was in the car and
I don't
driving
know
away.
what kind of
And they told me, do you need to have counseling there? Nothing. I said, I just need a Bible. I just need a place where I can have my worship on the Sabbath.
You'd have been like,
And
give me the Bible. The love.
I read 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Peter, Songs of Solomon, everything in between. They said to me at the time I left, they said, did you get a lot of reading done? I said, indeed. Every day they tried to tell me, you have to get vitals. I said, no, I'm doing good by God's grace. And
Vitals?
Yes, to check
What do
my
they-
vitals to
what
tell
do they
me that
need
I'm
you-
sick.
What do they need to check your vitals for?
Because they want.
Where were you?
I was at Saskatchewan Hospital. I told
The
them
mental
you can't.
section?
I told at East Prairie View B, and I told
what
them you
that
can't.
is?
The secure
Cool.
place for criminals.
What?
And I told them you can't take me here because there's a criminal. There's based on the investigation and the conflict of interest. There's no hospital, the SHA, you can take me. You know what they said? If I don't talk, they're gonna send me to the prison cells, and they're gonna put me with the criminals in the prison cells.
But that is the right on. Take
And
me.
I said, you can't take me to prison cells because I didn't do any crime.
What did
And
they
this is
charge
not-
you with?
She said that I was forcing my dad not to get arrested, so withholding someone from being arrested, and also resisting arrest, they said.
That's BS charges.
Yes. Yes, and that's what I thought. They would not actually charge me because then I have to go to court and I have to talk.
Yeah, that's the first portion of the call there that was recorded. There's more to it, but you can see that she's not in a great state.
So I got to go in about like 15, 20 minutes. But
yes,
first of all, who was this lady?
Which?
The other woman that was on the call?
That was my mom and my sister.
I was going to say she sounds sympathetic to Keisha.
Yeah, she used to work for the RCMP.
And okay, so I guess this doesn't have it's not like a, does it have legal standing, or would it be considered hearsay? What would this be?
No, this is legal standing. This is for basically on what Keisha's giving her testimony about what happened to her, right? And she's telling them what happened to her in there.
I don't understand. Like make me understand. For a normal human being, if you have rules, like the police are supposed to Mirandize you and they don't, or they have to stop talking to you when you ask for a lawyer and they just keep talking. Is there just no justice? Like, am I naive?
Well, our charter prohibits it, right? Like the criminal law prohibits it, international law prohibits it, but we allow it to happen, right? Like we got this way because the only reason why we're here is we have to start looking in the mirror, all of us. We allowed this to happen, right? We
No, no, no.
gave,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Dale. Like every time I every time I say I'm going on Dale's podcast, these people come out of the woodwork. They're like a vexatious litigant. Don't trust Dale. And then I look at this audio recording. Like, what kind of a banana republic do we live in? How could anybody disagree with what just happened? It's just a gross violation.
well, yes, and these are things that happened at the time, and I, there's a lot of reasons for it, and it all boils down to some kind of prejudice or the other, or they're prejudiced to the money they're receiving, they're prejudiced to some idea or the other. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you, you don't want to read, so you're prejudiced to that. Like, I mean, you've got some kind of block that is blocking you from the truth. But then there's people who were a participant in this, and this is like the stuff that's going to happen. This is should all Nuremberg 2.0 stuff.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't just affect us; it affects everyone else. Because the stuff that we brought forward would have helped every single human being in this country that wasn't profiting off of the demise of Canadians.
Right.
If I can say something, the Trevor Hallsworth that I cited earlier,
Yes.
he sort of said the same thing. He said what he did, like it would have thrown a wrench in the work for a lot of the bills they wanted to bring, like the Online Harms Act. So they buried it, and sort of same with yours. If this was allowed to proceed, it would have made it a lot harder to do what they did during COVID. So they probably suppressed you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, they couldn't. And the thing is that with the engineering, it is 100% unanswerable. There is no engineer or technologist or anybody that has any standing to say this that will ever dare challenge me in a public manner. I have a call when I was talking to the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists, and I went up one side of him, the other, down the other, and I said, "You get your 5 best engineers, and we'll have this conversation publicly." He could not say a word. He knew I was right, and his mouth confessed it. But he's like, "We only deal with the name engineering, the name engineer." But their bylaws tell their laws that govern them tells them that they have to deal with the public interest, and people dying is definitely within the public interest. So they're liable. That's why they don't want to do anything.
Yep.
And that's why they went.
I have another question about Keisha's audio recording. This is sort of for my own interest. So Keisha says on there, "I want a lawyer." Granted, she doesn't. It's not like she didn't record the police officer during this, but she's saying that she asked for a lawyer. They ignored her. If you go to a court and you present this, what is the judge going to say? Like, is the judge going to say, "I'm sorry, this evidence is inadmissible"? Do they allow it to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and then one Supreme Court justice just throws it out? How would they get around that?
This has actually gone to the Crown. This is gone with part of the investigation and stuff that has to be forwarded to the Crown. And the Crown is the one that has to listen to this, and they have to figure out what's gone on. And the police have to find out what's gone on. Did she get a lawyer? Did these things happen? And they have to go back and they look at the records. Because all of these things, there's records of what was done. Right?
Yeah. And they held me, like they had the 7 male officers rotating in and out of the room, interrogating me from like 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning until like 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening. And they searched me under my clothes in front of those men. And they didn't let me speak to a lawyer. Eventually, they transferred me to Saskatchewan Hospital, the prison side, East Prairie View B, which is where they hold people who are criminally insane. And they emptied an entire wing of the prison and held me there alone. It's ridden with cameras, and so there's so much. They can go back and see everything that went on there.
Remember, Daniel Buford actually talked, and he started to cry when he talked about the treatment of the people being quarantined in the Saskatchewan hospital, and that's where Keisha was.
Yeah, and I worked there, so everyone knew me, and they just went on and did things like as if they didn't know me. They didn't clothe me properly. They didn't feed me
And her
properly.
union tried to sack her while she was there.
Yeah, had meetings with me saying that I didn't show up to the meeting, even though the people who were making the meetings were my boss and
I remember
responsible for
this part
making
of the
my meal.
story.
Yes,
Yeah.
But the reason I'm laughing is I'm not laughing at you. I've brought on a lot of whistleblowers and victims on my podcast. I brought on Artur Pavlovsky. It's sort of similar. Like they tried to break him in jail. I brought on Mr. Michael Jackson, who he's from Saskatchewan. He was a parental rights issue, and he was highlighting how the police would constantly lie, and they would try to get him to come out of the house. They're like, you have to come out of the house. Like, no, I don't. They want him out. They lie to him so that they can detain him. There was another gentleman, James something, I forget his name. He one of these guys, he did a test. He wanted to drive his car without a license plate to see what happens and to make a point. So he drives into a parking lot. I think this was also Saskatchewan. Drives into a private parking lot. The Motor Vehicle Act says that the police cannot detain people on private property. So, and that includes a private lot. They beat the crap out of him and his brother. They throw him in jail. Cameras everywhere. When it goes to trial, mysteriously, the microphone on these 11 cameras wasn't working. These like 9 cameras in prison, they weren't working. And the judge is like, yeah, well, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with it. And they ruled in favor of the police against them.
Yes.
James Stewart.
This is what routinely happens. This is why the people have to put the pressure on them. This is the only way that we're going to do this and work with every avenue we have. And it's going to take work. People need to stop doing what they're doing. Otherwise, we will not get anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's all hands on deck now, or won't be any deck left to save it all.
Yeah.
And all the guys that are going out and running their mouths, they need to shut up and go away, because they're not helping the country. And people need to ignore them because they're going to pressure them harder. But these guys are like the crabs in the bucket, pulling everybody back down. The ones that are trying to escape, they're trying to pull us all back down, and they want the whole ship to go down with them. They're insane. They just
the infighting it's out of control, and it's like if you don't like somebody personally, fine. No one's perfect. I mean, you could find something in my past that maybe it was unsavory, but this is kind of like the barbarians are at the gates. They're smashing, climbing the walls. Is it really worth it to talk about how Payman stole like $10 from somebody's wallet? Like we'll put that aside for the moment. Like let's focus, triage. We got to triage.
Well, you've got to sit down and think about it. Like they talk about the grifting and this and that. Why would somebody? I've been stabbed more than once, and I don't go after the people who did this to me. I've got bones broken for people lying, right?
Yeah.
I don't go after these people with that type of hostility.
Yeah.
I don't. People have raped my daughter and admitted it. I don't go after them with that type of hostility. So what would make somebody go after somebody for that amount? Like there are people that have just have a shrine on our social media posts. That is psychotic behavior.
Yeah, like
that is not mentally stable. It's not.
It's funny. I'm noticing I'm not even a person anymore. I'm just a collage of all the guests I've had on. So Susan Stanfield, she's another guest I had on, and she was big against COVID at the beginning. She had to flee to the UK. She got too many threats. She came on my show. Oh my! Like the next day, I got a whole bunch of DMs, and there's one person who's dedicated a Facebook page to discrediting her. I don't know what she did. Maybe she had some business venture that went south, or maybe she embezzled money. I don't know. I don't care. Like Susan Stanfield's there to talk about politics and what David Eby is doing. Meanwhile, people contact me and tell me like she didn't get kicked out of South Africa. Her visa expired. I'm like, I don't give a shit. What do I care? But that, like, people make it their mission to destroy people they don't like.
But this is what ends up happening. And if you look at what they do, they will pick at the tiniest little detail for them to come up and say, "Oh, you see, this little tiny thing would sweep away this really gross situation." So they'll take this tiny detail and say, "Oh, well, they got kicked out. Their visa expired. They didn't get kicked out, but forget about the person who just got murdered. This is more important than that. This is what's happening."
Yeah.
And when you sit down and say, they're like, "Oh, well, they're grifting." Well, she got raped. People are getting killed. People are getting killed by the shot. People are getting their children stolen. You're going to sit down and say, okay, well, let's just say, okay, stole $1,000. Is $1,000 worth allowing people to get their kids raped? Is it worth allowing people to die? Is it worth allowing the whole country to go down? This is where we have to begin to start thinking rationally, because no person is perfect. None. Right?
There's one other thing you and I have talked about, Dale. These people that are initiating these attacks, they're almost always faceless accounts. So you don't know who they are. And it could be one of two things. They could like legitimately be federal, a chaos agent, whatever, or they're just lost souls and the federal government's just boosting them and sending viewers and whatnot their way, and they're just ushering them along, but it's not really helping.
Well, what solutions are these people providing? All the people that are running out, because I watch this happening all the time with all kinds of people, the ones that are tearing down and exposing everyone. What solutions are you bringing?
Well, they're not bringing solutions. You and I know this, but that's not their purpose. They're very good at running interference, and it's basically blackmail. So what they say to me, I've talked about this to Tom Marazzo on a podcast. They'll come to me and they'll say, "Don't go on Dale Richardson's podcast." And when they do that, they put me on notice. And what they're really saying is, you go on Dale Richardson's podcast and Dale ends up doing something bad, we're going to discredit you in front of all your friends. Like they're threatening my friends by association. That's how they get you. It's a blackmail thing.
It's mafia tactics.
That is mafia.
Yeah.
And this is the same criminal element that you're seeing in the government, that you're seeing in the justice system and everywhere else. And people need to start treating them in the same manner, because it is the same ideology.
The way I say it, it's a criminal behavior that the mafia uses, but one that's probably been co-opted by the intel agencies. And this is how they come after you, through intel. So Keisha, you mentioned that you were being intimidated and they were interrogating you. I've been interrogated by CBSA. They're very good. Like they do the good cop, bad cop. They come behind you. They intimidate you. They ask you for your passport first. And once you give your passport, you're at their mercy. You cannot leave. Like I remember once they got my passport and I'm like, I don't feel safe, man. I want to get the hell out of here, but you can't. Like this is beyond interrogation. This is like a terrorizing of the citizenry.
Yeah, but when you come in the country, they have to give you your passport. They can just they'll pull you in.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. Like they should be able to say, "Here, I'm Canadian. This is my passport. Too bad. Let me go." But they don't allow you to do that. They'll haul you in. Right.
Yeah.
So they give them that power, and they want to give them more power, which is also wrong. And in some of the bills where they can remove the permanent residency of the immigrants and so forth, that is bad. That's blackmail.
Yeah.
And they can use the immigrants against the Canadians.
Yep.
And the ones that are siding with us, they can silence them or send them back to where they came from. This is very, very bad what they're doing.
So with immigrants, I was an immigrant myself. So when you're an immigrant, you feel like you're on
probation.
On probation, yeah. So probationary period. You know, when you go into a new company, so you'll do whatever you want. So if you never want to ruffle any feathers, you never want to rock the boat, and if you take these people and you put them in law enforcement, now you have a natural born native Canadian that's in charge, and he says to that immigrant, "Go beat up D.L. Richardson, go beat up Payman Asghari," and they'll say, "Yes, sir." Not because maybe they're not necessarily because they're evil. They have to obey because they don't want to get kicked out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now with that being to revoke that their status like that, that'll make it worse.
Yep.
Because when they start bringing guys like that and they put them in the military, what do you think is going to happen? Turn the guns on the Canadians. Oh no? Well, bye. You're going back and you're dying. And I'll make sure that wherever you came from, if you were fleeing from torture, I'll make sure the guys that want to kill you are there to meet you when you get back.
You know, I don't make a distinction between the military and RCMP anymore. Like the RCMP has completely been militarized. Like they're walking around masks. You saw what they did during the trucker convoy. Now, maybe they weren't even RCMP, but they're walking around with these masks on like they're paramilitary forces. They're not upholding the rule of law. Rule of law says this is the law. The law enforcement is supposed to enforce that law. If that was true, SNC Lavalin, everybody would be in jail. What they're doing is, again, I'm not going to say what, but they're following orders. That organization that phrase comes from, they're just following orders, and that's ruled by government. They're following. They are the private security arm of the bureaucrats in the government.
Yes, and I actually also, that's one of the things I also addressed in the petitions that are sitting in Saskatchewan and Alberta. According to the Canadian Constitution, the RCMP, the way that they are currently operating in the provinces are completely unconstitutional, because under Section 92, subsection 14 of the Constitution Act 1867, the administration of justice is under the exclusive control of the legislative assemblies of each province. When you have a problem with the RCMP, who do you have to call? Ottawa. In Alberta, it's not called Edmonton. In Saskatchewan, it's not called Regina. It's called Ottawa. How is that exclusive control? Therefore, the RCMP Act is under Section 52, subsection 1 of the Constitution Act, says that if it's not in accordance with the Constitution, then the law is of no force. We literally have the brown shirts, because the law, them operating in the provinces without the provinces having exclusive control when they're federal police, that doesn't fly in this country. This is why they're getting away with what there is. There's no mechanism to control the RCMP. And we need to press the government, especially with this cruel and unusual punishment the RCMP is enforcing, like what they did in Ottawa, which is completely unconstitutional because of the way the mechanisms, there's no control mechanisms. The people need to not take that lying down. And they have an avenue to do this. And nobody wants them. This is why people are coming after me, because I showed them the legal pathway and the ways to use the system to their advantage, and then leverage other places, because that's the way the law is designed to protect the innocent, not the guilty.
Well, right now it's designed to protect the guilty.
But that's why we need the people to use it, because when you start using things like cruel and unusual punishment, and you make those claims, if they retaliate against you, then that comes with penalties. And if they keep doing it, they can't just, the world is going to be like, they're saying cruel and unusual punishment, and now they're torturing them and they're imprisoning them for cruel and unusual punishment. Everybody's going to start saying, well, what the hell is going on? Americans are now saying that Canada is a national security threat. This is becoming more commonplace.
Yeah, we're not even a. I'll just say one really quick thing. Listening to you two in those audio recordings and the video, where you're like, "What are we being charged with?" And the cops like resisting arrest. I'm like, "Yeah, but shouldn't there be an original charge that you're resisting?" It's just like they're throwing these things out there, and they're expecting the public to be completely clueless.
And the funny thing is, on their occurrence report, the resist arrest happened on July 22nd, when that arrest took place on July 23rd. So explain to me how that happened. Like,
time machine.
Well, this is all these kinds of things. People are saying all this stuff, but this is the evidence. There is so much evidence that they have. Like, there's people in the States that said that what happened to me in Acacia would take down the entire deep state trafficking organization because we hit so many levels of government, so many hands, and so much paperwork and audio and video evidence of people that incriminated themselves and are complicit to torture, rape, and all this other stuff. And that's why people are trying to bury this because they implicated themselves on this. People like even threatened me. One girl threatened me to sit down and because when my daughter and somebody came together with rope, duct tape, machete, and all that stuff, Set told me that I shouldn't say anything positive about Andrew Tate because he reposted her video while she was abandoned, and that got attention, which helped. And I was like, well, that's good because she could have got killed. And so she's like, I need to stop saying something. I'm like, well, what have you done to help my kid? Nothing. And you're now telling me that if I don't say what you want and do what you want, you're going to expose me? And then now she's running around telling people all these kinds of things because I didn't do what she said?
Yeah.
Really? I don't play that game. Blackmail doesn't work with me. You're going to blackmail me? The answer is no.
This is, again, you and I have talked about this offline. This is not normal human behavior. I go out of my way to tell people that, you have to make up your own mind. I don't want to pressure you. This is psychotic behavior or intel agency behavior, which is also psychotic in some way.
Yeah, because people have even threatened me with law enforcement. Judges have threatened me with law enforcement if I don't, like they said, if we talk a certain way about Andrew or if we don't make accusations or whatever. Like, it's not normal behavior at all. That's not something that a random person will just do for fun. That's, like you said, that has to be like an intel agent or someone who's psychotic or both.
Like,
these people know exactly what they're doing.
Of course
exactly.
They do. I tell people, and I sit down and I say, I don't tell people take everything I have to say. I said, read the document. Obviously, a lot of people aren't going to read all of it because I've got so much material, but at least read some of it so that you can get an understanding of what's going on, right? Like, because I'm not expecting, because I've got hundreds of thousands of pages of documents all over the place. I'm not telling people to read that. Read a few hundred pages. It's 100, 150 pages. Get an idea. Like the engineering report, read it. Because in the engineering report, it actually lays out a lot of the crimes and it applies the laws to the crimes in the analysis of risk. And this is where I show that, and anybody can read that.
Something has changed. When I was younger, let's say like the 90s, you didn't get this much like information, disinformation, or like take Nick Fuentes. Some people say he's a federal agent. Some people say he's not a federal agent. Some people say Tucker Carlson is honest, authentic. Others say he's in the pockets of Israel and it's all a psyop. I think with social media, because we've gotten so much freedom and we can get the information out, and the intel agencies, the powers that be, can't directly silence us or discredit us. I think they're just putting out a lot of counter narratives, and it confuses people. Nobody knows what's real anymore.
But there's also a level of boldness that comes from the internet that people get that they wouldn't normally in person. Because before in the town square, like a lot of people, for example, like Nick Fuentes, he's a smart guy. He says a lot of dumb stuff. And I know when I was a kid, I wouldn't be the guy that did it, but I know a lot of guys that would have probably plowed him in the face for saying some of the stuff that he did, and he would have got a course correction. And a lot of these people online, because when you're saying these things to people in their faces, like all of those guys that say that stuff, they wouldn't come to my face and say it. Like I've seen Jason, what's his name there, the one there that did the Coots thing. I've seen him. He won't say that stuff in my face. He kind of hangs his head and puts his head down when he sees me. He doesn't. Like, all of these guys don't act the same way when they see me to my face.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk to somebody about a man and a daughter and they're getting raped and coming in your face, you're asking for very big problems. And they wouldn't say that to my face, but they do it behind in the internet, right? And this is what I understand. Like, this is why we're having a problem.
Less or zero consequence is what you're saying.
Yes.
That's exactly it. And so then people get this because they're not getting consequences, they go into all different directions, and then the worst elements of whatever they do are going to come out because they're not getting the consequences. Because when we were kids, you said something dumb, you might have got your friend might have punched you in the face. You made up. You learned your lesson. You guys, everything is good, right? Because kids, they fight with each other, right? You kind of learn and figure that out. But now they take away all the natural consequences. They shield them. And you have this online platform. You're going to get the worst of people coming out thinking they have no consequence. This is why people are shielding rapists and traffickers and all the worst elements across the board.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that they're not going to get consequences, but they don't actually read the laws. Because eventually, wherever the mafia is, you're going to get Elliot Ness and the Untouchables. And there will be a course correction. Right? And that's what's going to happen. And when they do, a lot of people are going to get arrested. They're not going to understand why. They will, but they just didn't think they were ever going to get a consequence.
Let's hope so. Dale, I gotta run.
No worries. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you want to do? You want me to do you just drop off, or do you
No,
want me to plug, or?
We're going to do your plugs. We'll close it up here because I got to run too here. So we'll close it down here, and then I'll close with a prayer and then give my daughter final thoughts, and then we can get out of here. So tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah, just follow me on X at Payment Ascaria 451, and I got a podcast in lay terms, YouTube, Rumble, and Substack.
Oh, that was quick and brief. I mean, it was support the guy. One of the more common sense people. Love talking to the guy. And solid podcast. So give him a follow and so forth. I'm going to close here because we need to get people together. But there's an action plan for the stuff here. You can look at it in the ticker. So if anybody wants to go there, you can see the simple steps. But I have people to go out and start putting pressure on the government so that they can get what they want. And if they have their information, start throwing it in along with what's already there. And then I will put up some stuff for if anybody wants to put their information in for the cruel and unusual punishment. I'm going to put that there so that we can start pushing this internationally, because Canada has gone too far, and we need to use every possible avenue all at once to make them accountable. Otherwise, they won't, and we have to do it together. And we don't need everybody, just the ones that are willing to work. Because all the other ones, well, they didn't start with the 3%, but they ended with it, and that's all they needed to win in 1776. So keep that in mind. And I'll close with a prayer, then I'll let my daughter close it off because she sounds much better than me. All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. And Lord, we thank you for all the things that you have done for us. And Lord, I'm asking you to give us some help, the men and the women can get some sanity and to come together to fix this situation and to hold these criminals accountable who have run over our government and are oppressing us, and that we need some relief. And most of all, to help us protect the children and be with us and bless us this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Dad, for the prayers always. Thank you, Payman, for joining us. It's awesome having you on. Hope to have you on again in the future, of course. And yeah, everyone go out and support him. And we'll have his information linked down below, and he told you as well. And yeah, we got to start looking more at solutions and not running our mouth and complaining. We need to work together to get some of these things done, because our time is surely limited. Anyways, thank you guys for joining. We'll catch you in the next one. And to my dearest Karis, until we meet again, my friend. And we will. Ciao.